Hey,
Yay!
well, welcome everybody. It's Monday Night Live.
The best night of the week.
We are 3 minutes late, and in all fairness, it's Kate.
I'm having some hair issues, okay?
I didn't think you'd really own up to that. All right. I was just playing. Well, welcome everybody.
I'm too transparent, always.
It is good to see you tonight on Monday Night Live. We're excited to come to you live from sunny St. George. Starting to warm up and super stoked. For those of you that like the heat like me, you're very happy.
And I am.
Yes.
I am one of those humans.
I love the heat.
Bring the heat.
Well, welcome everybody. It's exciting to see you. And tonight, I am Dean Nixon, and this is Kate Semmens with TurningLeaf Wellness Center in St. George, Utah. So we're excited to come to you live tonight and talk about life and talk about what's going on and talk about how to move us forward.
Mm-hmm. So if you maybe are just kind of new to Turning Leaf or haven't maybe seen some of our other lives where we've mentioned The Key, which is a really cool book that Dean and Kelley wrote. When did you guys write this?
Well, we started writing it about almost 4 years ago. It took it 2 years to really get it compiled. But yeah, we released it last year, I think it was. The end of 2017, beginning of 2018.
Mm-hmm. So in this book, it follows a young man named Isaac through his journey and learning all of the 8 coping skills that we use here a lot in stuff at Turning Leaf Wellness Center. And so we thought it'd be kind of cool to just really focus. See what I did there?
Yes.
See what I did there? On the first coping skill. And progressively over the next little while, we'll just kind of throw another coping skill at you in between different topics that we want to talk about. So if you want a copy of this, it's on Amazon. It's here in our office. If you're local, stop in, say, hey, grab a copy. But on Amazon, just search for Dean Nixon or The Key, and it'll come up.
Yeah, it's better if you go to Dean Nixon. If you pull up The Key, there's a lot of other cool books out there and literature. But if you just go to Dean Nixon, it'll come up with the 4 steps to confidence and The Key.
And The Key.
Yep.
It's an easy read, like it goes fast. And in other lives that we've talked about The Key on, the way I like to describe it is you could like burn through it and then you can take every little thing and just really research it out and apply it to your life. So it's super easy to understand, but application is always what we're striving for, right?
Yes, application is the action. And I love that you talk about it. It is a short read. And look on Facebook, one of the comments is that Monica had read through it and she loved it. So thank you, Monica. It is such an important piece, and this is one of the things that I use the most in our work here at Turning Leaf. I know you do as well. And one of the biggest issues, as you know, we talk a lot about it in our work, is our inability to cope. And it's so interesting because just the other day I got a lot of people like sending me articles. And I love it when they'll forward me an article on Instagram or on Facebook. And it was talking about this new addiction, the addiction to phones and the addiction to social media. And this issue that we're having, it's a coping issue. It's the inability to cope with emotional discomfort. And it is something that we're struggling with across America, across the world. And it's something that's going to increase as we start to use other things to supplement that. The other articles, I get a lot of articles about substance abuse. And substance abuse is a rampant issue. But that's the thing, is addiction isn't just connected to substances. Right. It's connected to work and exercise and all the other things that can be healthy, but it's things that are used in an unhealthy way.
Right. I think that's a pretty cool, interesting thing to point out too, because every Monday night we do a free family support group. And really the angle is helping families that have addicts in their family.
Yes.
But we're all addicts.
Everybody is. Everybody.
Right?
And I love that you say that. I remember there was a movie that came out, how many years ago, called What the Bleep Do We Know? And I loved it because it features so many well-known thinkers in our world right now. One of them is Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's written the book Becoming Supernatural. Highly recommend that book. If anybody out there,
keep going. Sorry, I cut you off.
Kate turned me onto it.
Yeah, I found it, and it is not an easy read.
It is. It's a little bit more.
It's heavy,
meaty,
but
it's
so good.
That's a really good book.
And do you love how I was like, oh, I love Joe. Like, we're best friends.
He and I grew up together.
Joe, listen, Joe, if you're watching, give us a call. We'll have lunch, okay?
Yes, but the thing that was interesting about it. Oh, there's our light. The thing that was interesting about it is that on What the Bleep Do We Know, it talks about how we're all addicted. We're all addicted to something. And some of it is we're addicted to our beliefs. Some of it that we're addicted to fear. Some of it we're addicted to outcomes. And that I see a lot. Sorry, I'm going to have to keep adjusting this apparently. I see that a lot is, with we really are addicted to getting certain outcomes. And that's one of the reasons why it's so hard right now for our youth. They're having a hard time coping because they're so addicted to having the outcome that they want.
Right, that control piece.
And when I can't get the outcome, if I can't get the outcome of the picture in my head, that addiction to that outcome becomes unmanageable, and we struggle.
Absolutely. And so the coping skill we wanted to talk to you guys about today is focus, which in the book, Isaac goes to be with his grandfather.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And his grandpa lives out on a ranch. And so they get on a horse and they start wandering through the countryside and the mountains. And Isaac's just going on and on and on about everything that's wrong in his life.
Right.
Right? Like just all the relationships that went awry, all the money that he's been made and lost, and just on and on and on. And they get to a point, and then Mac is his name. Says, all right, that's long enough. Why don't you take us home? And he can't find the way home because he wasn't even paying attention to the...
Apparently that's going to stay down.
We're going to glow like angels today. But anyway, so he can't even take him home. And so...
He got lost.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought you were
nice pause right there.
Over.
Well, yeah, and that was the interesting thing. And when I was writing that segment, the piece that really impacted me, and the reason that I wanted it written the way that it is, and that what impacted me so much the most in writing it is how lost we get in our story. And that's what I wanted to draw out is as he's on horseback and he's just going, and his grandfather's just listening, and just over and over the old minutia. And that's like, I can tell that with clients. I get clients that come in and they sit down and they kind of go through a story that they've told so many times.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way.
Yes.
We're all the same way. Nobody's immune from this.
We just start our script, right? Like we just go into our dialogue that we're so used to saying over and over
and over. But in that piece, and what I wanted to draw out in the story is that's what gets us lost. That's how we get lost, is we get lost in the story because the story, we're compelled to being a victim of our own story. And by doing so, then we get lost in the ability to create coping skills. So that's where, Mac, his grandfather, lovingly turns to him and says, okay, you now lead us home. And he can't find the route home. And that's when he gets frustrated. His grandfather explains to him is that he's been so lost in his story that he hasn't focused on where he is right now. And that's where focus as a coping skill is so important to us. We spend so much time focusing on what makes us uncomfortable, focus on what we don't want to have happen. We focus on controlling outcomes, or focus on all these things that are beyond our reach. And we miss living in the moment that we're in. And the incredible part about it is that anxiety is rampant. I mean, that's like the buzzword. We were talking about that last week, I think.
Yeah.
And anxiety's rampant. Well, we know anxiety is from the fear of the future, or focusing on the future. Well, we're so focused on the future because we're so focused on outcomes. We're so focused on the future because we're so focused on not feeling uncomfortable, or not being hurt, or not losing people, or losing things, or all these different things. So we're not focused on being here, present, congruent. And that's what really want to draw out in that chapter.
Can I read a little piece of it?
Always.
Because when we were looking at it. So by the way, I'm on page 9. if you wanted to either pull yours out and follow along or come back when you got the book and click play then. But so it's Mac, and it's this very piece that you're talking about. He says, you spent the last few hours complaining and focusing so much on your past that you got lost right where you are at right now. You see, we humans are peculiar creatures. We are so afraid of being uncomfortable. We tend to focus on how uncomfortable we are, and then we start making decisions from that place. It's no wonder we even move forward at all. You can either keep focusing on the burr under your saddle, or you can just get on getting on.
Yep.
That's some good cowboy wisdom.
That's some good cowboy wisdom, you know, and that I was channeling some of my the people in my life that have influenced me. But that's the way they talked, you know, when I was young. Mm-hmm. That's the way I was talked to when I was young. And it is that concept of get on getting on. You know, you can let the burr under your saddle run your life, or you can get on getting on. And I think that's the piece that we as human beings are so afraid of. And that's to that point that I wanted to make in that moment is we focus so much on what we don't want, and then we make all of our decisions from that place.
Right.
And that's where it gets scary. That's what scares me the most, is we're making those critical decisions about who we are, what we want in life, what we want to create in life from this fear-based rooted energy. Right. And we're not calming, we're not soothing ourselves, we're not using that control, that focus of control of focus to really give ourselves answers that we deserve.
Mm-hmm. So that's a really interesting thing that comes up, right? Because we're pretty conditioned to do that. Yes. I think it's just pretty natural, pretty human to like go through our script and sit in our stew. And like you said, that's a pretty scary place to just always be making decisions from, because then I love how Max said, like, it's any wonder we ever move forward.
Right.
Like you're just going to keep simmering in where you are. So in focus then, as a coping skill, do we focus on what we want to create instead of like the past? But then that gets interesting when we're talking about anxiety, right? Right. So
yes, we focus on what we want to create in the sense of we don't focus on what we want to create as far as this is going to solve my problems.
Okay.
So that's the piece for clarity. So one of the biggest pieces that's so important is a lot of times we're focusing on the future because we believe the solutions are in the future. We believe, and it's that concept of I'll be happy when, or when this is over, I will feel, or I'll be so glad when I don't have to deal with this anymore. And so we're sending all of our energy out, and that's where we're focusing on what we think that's what we want to create, but that's not. What we want to create is being peaceful in the space that we're in. Every single one of you looking and listening, all you want is peace in the space you're in right now. That's what you really want.
Right.
But we think that we'll get that peace in that space when we finally get the things we want, or the person in our life that's driving us crazy is no longer in our lives, or whatever. But the interesting thing is once those people leave, the problems remain. The problem remains. And that's what the book is about, is that even though all the people in Mac's life was no longer, or Isaac's life, the people in Isaac's life were no longer there, the pain was still there because the story was still there. And so what we want to do is on the focus is twofold, two things we want to focus on. The first we want to focus on is the space that we're in right now, and really focusing on, am I okay right now? Am I in a safe space right now? Am I in a healthy place right now? We stay focused, we stay there. The second piece that we want to focus on is, what do I want to create in the future? And is by me worrying about the future affecting that? By me worrying that, if I want to be more peaceful, then I need to employ strategies. That's one of the things that is so important, is with focus being a coping skill, is mindfulness is a beautiful, powerful tool for focus. And when we can use mindfulness, it's crazy how we can envision, we can visualize our world being as we want it to be, not because it'll solve our problems, but because that's how life is.
Absolutely. And I'm just sitting here thinking like how cool it is as life coaches to be able to help guide and help people really realize that when they come and when they work with us. Like, it's so cool to see what happens when you can kind of like work through your story, right? And then just get some real good forward motion and have someone there to help you be accountable and to stay on course.
Right. Yeah, that's the hardest thing is even if you're doing a check-in, it's important. Like, I go to the dentist every 6 months. And sometimes it's not good news. And sometimes it's great news. I like those. I get more of those. But we go to the dentist because we know that if I maintain my dental hygiene, I have less problems in the future. But we don't. We treat, and you'll hear me, I've said this a million times, we treat mental health like a toothache. You know, I wait till I'm in pain. I wait till it's a root canal time. Then I go in and I get help. But if we're checking in once a month, once every other month, when we're in crisis and working through stuff every week, but if we're coming back and we're checking in, oh my gosh, what we can create for ourselves is powerful.
It's so
and that's
cool.
What's so important is we've got to keep the mental health train moving forward for us. Or if we don't, we're going to get stuck. We're going to get stuck. So yes, it is cool.
Yeah, it's just like my favorite part of my job.
Yeah.
It's
a good part. It's a good part of being able to help people learn how to cope and to be able to heal and to move their feet and to keep themselves moving forward is a critical part of what we do. But it's important as human beings that we find a way to keep our feet moving forward. And when we don't, that's when we're turning to all these other external coping mechanisms. We're turning to substances. We're turning to
ice cream.
Oh yeah, ice cream.
I guess that's a substance.
It is. Food is a substance.
Yes.
It's a form of substance abuse.
Codependency.
Yeah. Addicted to outcomes, addicted to work, addicted to exercise. Anything and all of those things are things that will affect us and create this blockage.
So the next thing I think I'd like to talk about are like those firewalls that we can put up, right? Like when it's like you find yourself sitting in your stuff, going through your story. It's even interesting, like as you try to practice this, when you meet new people and you try to not go into your normal story, right? Like, oh, this is what I do, and this is my family, and I'm a Scorpio, right? Like, you just don't get into your routine. It's interesting how when you start trying to have a different conversation, people are so used to the old conversation. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what do you do for work?
What do you do? What is your job?
Yeah. So would that be like a really cool place to start? Would be like anytime I start going into my old routine of my story that keeps me stuck, boom. I just like little mental firewalls to show up. So then you can actually start working on things and making progress, right? So you were saying one way is to basically work on your grounding, get in the now, focus on right now. How am I feeling? Am I okay? Am I safe?
Right.
And then shift your focus to, all right, now what do I want to create? What do I want to do from right now to move myself forward?
Right. And then employ those mechanisms. Yes, absolutely. And, you know, we call them, I love how you call them firewalls. We've used the term through the years, red flags or caution signs or warning signals. And firewalls are great, you know, because we're now all tech savvy in our world. But yeah, it is that concept of is the minute we hit that place where you tune in and you become present and you become conscious, boom. Okay. Yes. All right. I'm doing this again. Yes. And
I'm going to make a different decision right now than I normally do. Yeah.
One of my favorite, quotes came from the book called The Untethered Soul. I'm trying to remember, forgive me. I have to look over here. Singer wrote it.
I was going to try to distract.
While I look at my bookshelf. And he talks about, you know, when something's bothering us, one of my favorite lines in there is he says, we ask ourselves what part of this is bothering me. And that's such an important concept for us. You know, when we're in that process, we find ourselves telling our story, or we're getting triggered by something somebody's doing or saying. It's important for us to remember, well, okay, what part of this is bothering me? And then that tells me, okay, do I need to be aware of the future? Do I need to be aware of the past? How do I ground myself in the now? And that's where the mindfulness stuff comes in. So as we're running out of time, I want to mention, as the mindfulness piece, one of the biggest tools I encourage you to do is meditation, finding grounding ways to ground. One of the things I really appreciate is one of the stores I was going to talk about here in town. It's called The Awakened Soul, and they've got really great meditation beads and things there that we can use to help ground ourselves.
Yeah, go check them out. They're super cool. They're actually pretty new to our community.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. They're right by Capoletti's. Amazing Italian
right
food,
on
by the way.
Tabernacle. So if you're local, go check them out.
Yes. Well, as we get close on time, I think we've got some comments there. So thank you, everybody. Oh, so many people commenting.
Orlando, Alaska, you guys are awesome.
Thank you for tuning in. So we want to thank everybody. Sorry we didn't get to all the questions or comments, but thank you for those. And keep tuning in.
Yeah. Hey, don't forget, we've got a women's only workshop this
Wednesday.
Friday.
Oh, Friday's the workshop.
Saturday. Yeah, we have our group Wednesday night.
Wednesday night is the women's group.
So Monday night is the family support group. Wednesday night is the women's empowerment group. And then this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., we're doing a workshop.
Yeah, for women, empowering. It'll be women only.
Yep.
Kate's going to be facilitating it. It's going to be amazing.
I'm so excited.
Come, support, learn, grow. It's going to be really, really cool. The content is phenomenal. It's quality content. So come get some help. Come get some answers. Come support each other.
Yep.
This is the year of supporting women, helping women find their voice, and empowering women. So we're stoked. So thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Like and share the videos. Find us on YouTube at Turning Leaf Wellness Center. Like it and follow us.
Yep.
We'll see you all next week on
Monday Night Live.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.